On Government Order of the Day number 3.
Wildlife Powers Amendment Bill, first reading.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Maggie Berry.
I move that the Wildlife Powers Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Local Government and Environment Select Committee to consider the bill. Mr Speaker, protecting our native wildlife is of crucial importance to the ongoing health of New Zealand's precious natural environment. Our birds, our animals and our forests are central to our sense of our national identity. They are our national monuments, taonga, that is treasured by all New Zealanders. However, species such as moa, the giant haast eagle, grayling and huia have become extinct since humans landed here. Today, some 77 species of our surviving native birds, or 37%, have either disappeared from mainland New Zealand or face a real risk of doing so. Many other species of wildlife are also threatened. The unique qualities and threatened status of so many of our species is also why the Wildlife Act absolutely protects our native bats, reptiles, frogs and birds. The Act also protects 8 marine fish species, marine corals, and a small number of native land invertebrates. Under the Marine Mammals Protection Act, New Zealand's whales, dolphins, seals and sea lions are also absolutely protected. This means that it is illegal to hunt, kill, possess or sell these animals. Unfortunately, some people still continue to legally hunt or kill protected wildlife. For example, people have been caught trying to smuggle tuatara, native parrots and geckos out of New Zealand. Since 2010, there have been 7 convictions for attempted smuggling of 68 geckos. International dealers and collectors have a high demand for these geckos as they are unique, attractive and long-lived. Within New Zealand, people have also been prosecuted for taking or killing geckos and protected birds such as kereru. Hunters have taken dogs into wildlife refuges or set possum traps illegally on the ground so that they accidentally catch kiwi and weka. This sort of offending matters because it is yet another pressure on our wildlife. Even low levels of offending can harm species that are already threatened by introduced predators and by the loss of their habitats. In 2013, my colleague Jackie Dean's Conservation Natural Heritage Protection Act significantly increased the penalties for offending in the Wildlife Act and in 5 other conservation-related acts. This act rightly had the strong support from both sides, all sides of the House. However, increased penalties are only one part of any toolkit to deter and respond to offending. We also need education and information to increase awareness and to improve voluntary compliance. And we need to be effective at apprehending and prosecuting offenders if they do in fact offend. This is the focus of this bill. Although the Wildlife Act includes many enforcement powers, they have not been updated for more than 60 years. A good illustration of this is that the Act currently enables any ranger to call on any male person over the age of 18 for assistance. I think it's about time the Act was brought into the 21st century. The old powers also mean that there are 4 significant gaps in the basic powers that we feel are essential for effective enforcement. These gaps can make it difficult to thoroughly investigate offences or to prosecute offenders when this is necessary. First, it would seem logical that if rangers come across offending, either about to occur or in progress, that they would be able to intervene to prevent it or to stop it. Unfortunately, rangers currently are not authorised to take preventative action to stop an offence about to occur. Secondly, rangers are currently authorised to stop and search vehicles, vessels and bags and other items in transit. However, they do not have the power to temporarily stop people from leaving the scene of an offence, so that rangers have sufficient time to carry out their duties. The ability to do this can be vitally important in situations where an offender is trying to evade the ranger or to hide the evidence of the offending. Thirdly, establishing and verifying an offender's identity is essential to any ability to prosecute. Although a ranger can require a person found offending to provide their name and address, they cannot require that offender to provide evidence of their identity. Offenders can therefore give false names and addresses, which make it very difficult to investigate offences and bring about successful prosecutions. Finally, the Act currently allows rangers to seize only a few types of evidence, and this does not include common items such as mobile phones, cameras, documents or computers. In several cases, rangers investigating offences were not able to seize cameras, phones and even bundles of cash that would have provided evidence that the offending was commercially motivated and therefore warranted higher penalties. So the intent of the Wildlife Powers Amendment Bill is to provide better tools for protecting our wildlife by addressing these gaps in the enforcement powers. It is important to note at the outset that DOC rangers who have compliance training and carry warrants from the Director-General, these are about 260 DOC staff, already have these powers when dealing with offences on conservation land. This amendment bill expands that power of the conservation estate and includes any area in New Zealand. So this bill would allow a ranger to intervene to prevent an offence if it is about to occur, or to stop offending that is in progress. For example, a ranger might trip or remove illegally set traps, or intervene to prevent someone who is hunting protected species. If a ranger does intervene, the way in which that person does so would need to be reasonable in the circumstances. It allows a ranger to temporarily stop a person to ensure that they do not leave the scene. The ranger will, however, need to have reasonable cause to stop the person and may only stop them for a period of time that is reasonable in the circumstances. It will also enable a ranger to request an offender to provide their date of birth and evidence of their identity. They have been misled and lied to in the past and therefore unable to achieve successful prosecutions because of this. It will also allow a ranger to seize any evidence provided that it is relevant to the investigation of the offence. These 4 standard powers will be available to DOC's full-time rangers. Finally, the bill proposes a limited power of arrest. The Wildlife Act currently does not allow rangers to arrest a person. Rather, if that was necessary, rangers would have to wait for the police to come and assist. This is inefficient as it ties up the resources of 2 agencies. And it is ineffective, as offenders, not surprisingly, will not wait for the police to arrive, and a lot of wildlife offending takes place in remote areas. A power of arrest would therefore be useful in specific planned surveillance and intelligence gathering operations, such as for international poaching offences, as these can last for several weeks and often occur in the back blocks, hours away from towns or police stations. Because the ability to arrest someone is a significant power, it will be limited to serious offending against absolutely protected wildlife, such as that involving illegal hunting, killing or export. Access to the power of arrest is also limited to full-time DOC rangers who are specifically warranted to use it. The current training given to rangers covers this ground, and making those minor changes to the Act will not impact on DOC's budget. This is, in essence, a very minor technical change. The bill does not affect the Act's core principles, such as the protection status of wildlife or how wildlife is managed. The powers will be available to protect wildlife in the same way wherever the wildlife occurs in New Zealand, whether on private or public land. But these changes will not affect people or businesses unless their activities break the law. The bill also includes various safeguards around how the power is used and who can use it. The power of arrest for wildlife offences will also be available to police constables and certain Defence Force, customs officers and fishery officers, as these agencies regularly work with DOC in joint agency wildlife operations. The proposals in this bill are not, of course, the only way of protecting our wildlife. Enforcement is only one part of any toolkit. It is far better to prevent offending happening with education and information than to deal with it after the event. And we must continue to manage the pests and other threats to New Zealand's biodiversity. I'd like to finish by quoting legendary conservationist Don Merton. Our taonga, our threatened species, are our national monuments. They are our Tower of London, our Arc de Triomphe, our pyramids. We don't have ancient architecture that we can be proud of and swoon over in wonder, but what we do have is something far, far older. No one else has the kiwi. No one else has the kakapo. They have been around for millions of years, if not thousands of millions of years. And once they are gone forever. And it's up to us to make sure they never die out. In my opinion, the enforcement powers in this bill provide necessary and practical mechanisms for helping to prevent the loss of our taonga. And I commend this bill to the House.
Mr.
The
Speaker.
question is that the motion be agreed.